Okay, let's call the meeting to order. And we've established a quorum. It's on the agenda, it says introductions. Do we need to do introductions? This is not something we've done before.
So what we've been doing is I'll name off the members of the committee that I see in attendance. And if I miss anybody as I'm speaking, just pipe up at the end. So I see Donna Wood, Miley Foster, Roy Rosenthal, Michael Columb, Sharon Brown, Shelley Roars, Tanisa Sultana, Terry Hayes, and Patty Banger. Did I miss any CAC members?
Guess not.
Okay.
Okay, so the agenda, minutes, and board financial reports. Hopefully everyone in attendance today has had an opportunity to review them. We can approve them all together, I take it. So
We actually have a request to amend the agenda.
all right.
So we'll need to take that off of the consent, or we need to add item 6B as an action item to vote on the 2022 CAC Executive Officer slate. So you can either remove it from the consent item or move to approve the consent item with the agenda as amended.
I like that. Sounds efficient. So can we have a motion to approve the consent items with the modification, the one modification to the agenda?
So moved.
Then do I
So
have
please state your name when you make your motion.
Donna Wood, so moved.
Thank you, Donna. Do I have a
Shelley
second?
Roars, this is a second.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye.
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 Smile and raise your hand.
Right.
This is Patty Bencher. I need to abstain as I was absent at the last meeting.
Oh, all right, Patty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is the public comments. Do we have any public comments that came in for this meeting, Jessica?
Received none in advance. Is there anybody in our audience who would like to add a public comment for an item not on the agenda?
Guess
Okay.
not. Okay, so information items 4A. This looks interesting. 2022 legislative themes and priorities. Take it away, Jessica.
I'm Jessica McMullen, your Policy and Communication Manager. So this item we're bringing forward to you for your information. Every year, the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Board of Directors puts together a legislative committee, a group of folks who are interested in reviewing legislation that comes to the state. They work with our state laws to review all the bills that come up and find the ones that have a relationship and will impact PPACG. To define and limit that, so we're not looking at what 900 bills on average, we develop a legislative themes document that we put out every year. We use this document, and that's the one that our legislative committee will say, does this impact PPACG? Does it impact one of these themes as established? There are overarching themes that we keep an eye out because they're all very important and impact a variety of things: supporting local control, opposing unfunded mandates to local governments, and supporting legislation relating to addressing redundant or unnecessary regulation. So this year's proposed themes, and we also use the word priorities almost interspersed, so you'll hear me use both. Supporting pandemic recovery through assistance, support, and testing for older adults, supporting legislation that expands state, federal, regional, or local revenues available to fund the needs of seniors, supporting increased funding for transportation services for older adults and persons with disabilities, support increases in the quality of care and consumer protections for older adults and their caregivers, and support affordable housing efforts for older adults through assistance such as adjusting the homestead tax exemption program. I'm going to call this one out real quick. This is going to be one of the 3 priorities this year for PPACG is senior housing affordability is a big issue. And we're planning on engaging through the senior homestead tax exemption discussions that have been happening for several years in a variety of different ways. That discussion's been happening. And when we did our legislative roundtable back in October, they did let us know, our legislators let us know that several of them are hearing that they're either going to propose a bill or someone else is going to. So when you get your regular legislative updates from me starting in January, you'll probably be hearing about that one. Protecting and enhancing transportation throughout the region is another one of our themes. Supporting legislation that offsets the cost of new air quality regulation requirements. That's another one I'm going to call out. That's going to be another priority, is looking for funding to address new regulations regarding greenhouse gas emissions. As those rules come into place, there's going to be a lot of impacts to our local governments and to our region that we're going to be encouraging the state to provide some funding to keep us up with that. We'll be supporting efforts to improve safety and reliability in all transportation modes: drive, transit, ride, pedestrian, cyclist. Supporting efforts to improve safe and reliable flow of people and goods, opposing reducing the transportation funding to the region, and oppose mandates relating to E-Trip or VMT or greenhouse gas reduction requirements. So things that are handed down as you must do this without a discussion. Supporting air and water quality. Support legislation that protects air and water for the Pikes Peak region, oppose the creation of undue regulatory burdens on small communities, and support funding and opportunities for wildfire mitigation work. That's actually the third one that we are going to be deeply engaged on this year, is our expectation, and that's funding for wildfire mitigation. The compatible use study with the old JLUS, joint land use study, one of their big focuses for 2022 is wildfire mitigation, seeing what we can do for the region, because we've all seen a number of times wildfires don't care where your boundaries are. So we'll be working pretty actively on that one. Supporting and protecting our military partners. Like I said, that wildfire mitigation work is tied very closely to this as well, providing additional support to veterans, families, and active duty members, legislation that addresses encroachment issues, and supporting efforts to attract and expand military operations here. And then regional quality of life, supporting the pandemic recovery through flexibility of funding, supporting addressing funding being offloaded from the state onto local governments, which is another way of saying we need to make sure we're not getting mandates. So we're supporting them funding us instead of just making us pay for it. And support addressing regional issues as they pertain to the PPACG legislative themes. So within those, that's what the legislative committee uses to review legislation and to guide our state lobbyists. On an interesting note, our lobbyist for the past 3 years, Lauren Furman, has actually taken a position as the new CEO of the Colorado Chamber of Commerce. So we will have a new state lobbyist. We're in the process of that RFP currently. So I'll tell you who they are probably at our January meeting. Do you guys have any questions or comments about this? We want to make sure you know, because again, you'll hear from me every month. This is what's going on at the state legislature. This is what's happening. This is what we're looking at. And every year I'm always actively, if you hear about a bill that you think I need to know about, I want you to send it to me just to make sure I do. My goal really is to stay engaged and to make sure that you also know that we're here helping PPACG. And I need your voices.
Well, thank you, Jessica. So any comments, questions for her before we move on? I know I'm grateful you do that work, Jessica, because it saves us work as voters. It's and I encourage people that I come across to look at what PPACG, I have to say the acronym right, has to say about legislation.
And it looks like
And-
Shelley and Patty have both raised their hand.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, Shelley had her little hand up there a long time. So why don't we start with Shelley?
Sorry, that was for the vote earlier, but I do have a question.
Sure.
Sorry about that. So my question, I'm sorry, Jessica, can you scroll down to the support air and water quality section? And there was a section right before that. I want to highlight those two right there. Yeah, support legislation that protects the air and water quality of the Pikes Peak region. And then right above that, and what's the category above that? Okay, that one right there. Opposes mandates relating to employee trip reduction and or vehicle miles traveled reduction requirements. That one right there, and I understand the mandate word without fully, without a discussion, 100% no legislation should be mandated without a discussion and fully funded. That one right there, though, the employee trip reduction and or vehicle miles traveled, doesn't that specifically go right to the protecting of air quality?
So this specific item really does relate purely to mandates. Within the air and water quality, we want to make sure things are going well. But as we're looking at employee trip reduction and vehicle mile traveled reduction, we're looking for discussions at the state legislature. We're looking for ways that we can encourage people to do it. We've seen a lot more proactive efforts in other communities and other states when it was made optional rather than a mandated thing, which means that improvements happen much faster. So that's why we oppose those mandates.
Wasn't it recently the top 100, I'm not sure I've got my numbers right, but weren't the businesses with more than 100 employees specifically asked and polled if they would be in favor of this? Has that been discussed? Because to me, I think when I look at it, I'm sorry, I don't want to get into this down and dirty. This is a whole nother subject, but I just, that one I feel when we're almost contradicting each other. And that mandate word is in there and I see that. I don't want people to get the wrong idea that we're against those things because they do benefit air quality.
And that's why part of this is a conversation we always have with our legislators. We talk to them about it. So they know that what we're saying is it's the mandates. We need you to make it a discussion so we can make these things happen effectively and proactively rather than doing it in a way that's
Punitive?
well, and I'll frequently say that when you give someone this is the mandate, they're going to meet that bare minimum. And if you give someone a reward or a conversation, an encouragement, they'll go really far. So I do understand how those two things right up against each other does look a little strange, but it really is. It's that focus on mandates and how they really do limit the effectiveness of what you're doing to improve air quality.
Okay, and what happens, how long before if we're against mandates and nothing changes? When do we stop being against mandating that thing that helps our air quality?
I'm going to say that's not something I can answer. It's a great discussion to have. But that's not something that I can say we've got a deadline because the answer is we all care and we're all working to improve it. And that is an ongoing issue that you'll notice both with federal and state transportation funding, where they're looking at what are you doing to improve it. EPA monitoring, those requirements do continue to become more stringent, and we do have to meet those. So there's a lot already happening relating to increasing our air quality and addressing some of the concerns we have that result from transportation.
Thank you for the clarification, Jessica.
I hope that helps.
Thanks, Shelley.
Hi,
Patty?
thank you. One thing I wanted to add too was with the employee trip reduction is that it wasn't simply about reducing trips. Some of the mandates as initially proposed were requiring a daycare to be installed or requiring them to charge all of their employees for parking their vehicles if they didn't carpool and some other things. So it's a very broad topic. So I'm glad that we're discussing this and trying to get involved in that to mitigate some of those burdens, which would be a burden on some of our businesses. I certainly understand the need for improved air quality. I mean, certainly that's on top of everyone's mind, but I'm glad that's in there. The one thing I wanted to say is thank you for looking for funding for some of the air and water quality regulatory burdens that they've had. You know, at the end of the legislation, they put through a lot of the clean heat plan, the clean energy plan, and some other things with some very short timelines and no funding. So as the largest municipally owned utility in the state that's affected by this, we're the only one that has to meet the clean heat plan requirements with no funding. So it's definitely a challenge, and thank you for searching for funding.
Well, and on that note, you know, when we look at air and water quality, and wildfire mitigation, one of the big things that's popped up a number of times is there are fire ponds in places like Park County that are no longer legal. And so the counties are having to fight for permission to keep these established firefighting ponds. So that's another legislation we're not going to be engaging on, but that our members, specifically Dick Elsner, our vice chair, second vice chair, first vice chair, has led us, the commissioner in Delaware County, has been talking to us about, just saying, you know, hey, did you know this is a problem? And CCI, Colorado Counties Incorporated, is engaging on it pretty tightly.
Anne, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do. I would just like to say that regarding the, excuse me, searching for grants and that sort of thing is just wonderful. It's really helping in Green Mountain Falls. You know, we're right up here with all the forest fires and so on. And all of those things that the PPACG is working on to encourage regional cooperation and grants, because as Jessica mentioned, fire and water neither one of them respect county lines or city lines. So I just think it's wonderful. I really support all of the things that, you know, the overreaching mandate, or not mandates, but objectives, that I really think you've done a good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Patty, you still have your hand up. Were you finished, or did you have another comment?
I am all done. Sorry about that.
I
I did want to
understand.
let you know I have a conflict, so I will be having to bow out of the meeting a little bit early, about 4:15. So if I disappear, that's why.
Okay, we won't take offense. So it looks like Donna has a question.
I do, and that is in reference to, I mean, water quality is one thing, but water availability is another. And I didn't see anything on here that talks about water availability and all of the development going on out east, et cetera. Everybody has a lot of questions. Where are they getting the water?
And that is one of the issues, because it doesn't, none of the PPACG programs relate to water availability.
Okay.
It's the reason why we don't address it. Frequently, our board members or the lobbyist and I will pay attention to legislation relating to it so we can share it. But folks like Patty and the CSU team are all very much on top of trying to pay attention to those issues for our region. So.
Okay, thanks.
Good questions. Any others? Okay, so John's up next with CDOT Region 2 faster programs for fiscal year 2026.
Hi, everybody. We've got Wendy Pettit on the line, and so we're going to kind of turn these couple of items over to Wendy. And I do think we might have listed one incorrectly as action instead of information or something. So Wendy, my apologies if we listed anything wrong, but you want to go ahead and kind of chat through the items and tell us what you guys at CDOT need?
Sure. Actually, I have the representatives from the region on the meeting as well. So Matt Jago takes care of our FASTER program, and Shane Ferguson takes care of the RPP program for the area. So I'll let Matt talk to you about his faster request. Matt?
All right. Hopefully you can all hear me. Thank you, Wendy. Again, good afternoon. My name is Matt Jago. I'm with Region 2 Traffic, the asset manager for Faster for Region 2. So some projects that we have currently planned for FY26 is South Powers Median Barrier on Highway 21, Powers Boulevard, kind of borderline of Fountains, City of Colorado Springs. We're proposing to do installation of median barrier with some minor roadway improvements. The next project is US 24 East Georgia Orr Road intersection improvements, which some of you may be familiar with. That this has been a long talked about intersection in the Pikes Peak area that we're finally moving forward, looking at doing proposed improvements, mainly trying to look at moving the where Bluegill intersects 24 to Judge Orr, and then upgrading and modifying the intersection and adding signal improvements. The next one on the list is Mesa Ridge Parkway median barrier at State Highway 16 in Fountain. Similar as the South Powers project, we're looking to install a median barrier with some minor roadway improvements. If you go a couple sheets forward, there's a summation of our spreadsheet that has the kind of shows the projects. They're kind of towards the top in your area. So the where they show to be determined is the South Powers. We don't quite have a project set up, but we just wanted to bring for you guys as for your information to be aware of, as far as I understand, of these three projects and what we have kind of planned in FY26. And I think actually one of these technically is currently funding shown at FY25, if you scroll over to your right. Yeah, so the Mesa one we have currently planned for FY25. I don't think that's been seen by the CAC yet. And then the Judge Orr is the one below, and the Powers median barrier is the one above, kind of showing the breakdown of the funding. The funding that's currently listed for Judge Orr in 26 is mainly for construction. We have earlier advance money in 24 planned for right-of-way and design. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I don't see any hands going up.
Uh,
Oh, Ann?
Maley?
Yes?
This is Ann. I don't know if he's gone clear down through the whole list yet or not, but I had a question. Way at the end of all of these, there were some that had red next to it.
That's just, it's a coding for myself. It doesn't mean anything different. That's the Mansit project that is currently going along that was funded with other funding that's not faster.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see a difference. Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
have.
and that project technically is in construction. We're mainly focusing on projects that are planned for design and future. Sorry, yeah, my spreadsheet didn't quite get missing some breakouts. I had my spreadsheet is broken into design, local agency, and construction.
Oh.
So sorry for that confusion.
Well, I was just wondered, you know, I'm up at Green Mountain Falls on Highway 24 West. And so we're just concerned about that area.
Currently, yes. And if you look on the sheet, we weren't really planning to talk about it because we're still working on the application to get this on the faster approval list that we have to go through at headquarters. We have a project that we are looking at US 24 and Green Mountain Falls intersection.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Right. So, and that's some of the gray, to kind of emphasize the lighter and darker gray lines indicate locations or possible projects that we are working on applications, and once those are approved, when you can correct me, I assume we will bring these back through Pikes Peak COG through the process of getting these approved into the STIP and TIP.
That's correct.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
I will note that we didn't really update the sheet because we've had some changes in faster due to some allocation and some logistics, but I will have to check with Wendy if whether or not if we need to show that by your next monthly meetings or not, but I think we'll make those changes as once we get that confirmed and everything. It's not necessarily changing the projects, it's just kind of adjusting the potentially possible fiscal years the funding is available, which I don't want to bore you with right now, but it's we've had to make some adjustments due to some changes in our allocation that we get for faster for the whole region.
Okay,
So what's happening here today is just an information item, Matt and everybody. And what we'll do is once we have that solidified over the next few weeks, then we'll come back with an actual TIP amendment and we'll have it go through the TAC, the CAC and the board again, and we'll have a real TIP amendment added to the TIP.
All right. So right now we're mainly focusing on wanting to bring to your attention is like we talked about, the South Powers, the Mesa Ridge, and Judge Ward project.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Shelley Roars with the League of Women Voters. Matt, when you were planning in the design, this is 2026, correct?
For the most part, yes.
Yes, sir. How many projects did you review and how did you choose these three?
We kind of look and we have a 10-year running list of faster proposed projects based on looking at accidents and looking at trends. Also taking into account information from our planning partners. So I don't necessarily know if it came from the CAC, but some concerns that were raised to us from Pikes Peak COG about particular areas and other areas that could be informational from county commissioners. So we typically review any location and then see if it would qualify for the faster funding criteria. And then based on the available application that the region has, I tried to do my best to balance those funds across the various planning regions if possible, if I have projects that go across those planning regions for that fiscal year, and make adjustments as we allocations either increase, meaning the revenue that CDOT gets, because again, this is based on future projection. Depending on those revenues, they can either adjust up or down, and we make adjustments accordingly. So I hopefully answered your question.
Yes, sir, I understood. It's from a running list of projects from what I understand. If that's, and based on funding and how much you get, you basically go through those at periodic times. Is that understood?
Pretty much, yeah. It's based on feedback internally within CDOT, local jurisdictions, county commissioners, our planning partners, as far as potential areas, locations that they may have concerns. We do a thorough review of accident history, and if they qualify, then we apply for it to get it on the approved faster list for funding, and then we look for and assign what fiscal year it can go for and work with someone like Shane, because a lot of the projects go to him for his group to design and look at manpower and availability, and that's how it gets determined what fiscal years we try to target for.
Yes, sir, understood. Thank you for that. And one last question. How long have these three been in the pipeline then?
Judge Orr's been in for quite some time, quite honestly. I think it was when I came, from what I remember, it's been talked about since I came to Region 2. Again, it's come down to funding availability and trying to determine what was going to be done. Shane may be able to better answer that to myself, because I think he has a better knowing of the history. Powers and Mesa, honestly, just came up within like the last year. We did a median prioritization study where we ranked locations throughout the area where the median is less than 20 feet. In some areas, determine if there's issues, looking for cable barrier. Since we've been working on like locations like I-25 between Colorado Springs and Pueblo, and those two locations came up on the top of our priority list.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Sure, happy to answer.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, does that mean now we move on to the CDOT Region 2 RPP plan updates?
Yes, ma'am. So again, we're going to have the engineer for the area have a chat with you about the projects. That would be Shane Ferguson. So he should be on our meeting. Shane?
Hi, Wendy. Yeah, so my name is Shane Ferguson. I'm the North Program Engineer here out of Colorado Springs. And this is really looking at three different fiscal years, fiscal year 24 and 25, and then fiscal year 26. Fiscal year 24 and 25 is a redistribution of funding that was allocated to the Airport and Powers Interchange design. We're reallocating that funding because we received funding from Senate Bill 260 to design that project. And so that freed up this essentially $4 million to redistribute to other projects. And so for fiscal year 24, we want to redistribute 1 million of that, 2 million to the I-25 operational and safety improvements between Circle Drive and South Academy. That work will essentially be looking at shoulder widening and improvements along that piece of the corridor, as well as replacing or looking to start design on replacing those two bridges, the one that's on 85 over I-25 and then the railroad spur that goes to Fort Carson over I-25. And then the second project is preliminary design for the Powers Boulevard and Milton E. Proby Parkway interchange. That's the entrance to the airport, if you are familiar with that, the public entrance to the airport area. Again, that's just both of these projects are really in the preliminary design stages. Similar idea for fiscal year 25 is the redistribution of that $2 million from Airport and Powers to 1.5 of that million to I-25 and 500,000 for that Powers Boulevard and Milton E. Proby Parkway interchange. And then fiscal year 26 for RPP, the region is receiving about $4.7 million allocated to the PPACG area. Of that, we are distributing about $2 million to the I-25 operational improvements there between Circle and South Academy, as well as 2.2 million to Powers Boulevard and Milton E. Proby Parkway interchanges, and then another 500,000 to the US 24 over Ridge Road overpass. Again, all three of these projects are really in the preliminary and design stages. None of this funding will go to construction at this time. And that's what we really try to focus with this funding source on, as it's one of our more flexible funding sources, and allows us to get some of these major capital improvement projects kind of staged up and shelved up ready. So when we get the larger allocation of funding that comes in place to go to construction, we have some of our capital improvement projects ready to go. So that is the RPP plan for redistribution as well as allocation for fiscal year 26. Any questions?
Shelley, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Sorry, this is Shelley with the League again. So the CO21 Milton Proby Parkway interchange, the design phase for that was from 1 million to 500,000. Is that what I see?
So for fiscal year 24, we're adding 1 million. Fiscal year 25, we're adding an additional 500,000. And then fiscal year 26, we're adding 2.2 million for the interchange design.
All for design work. And can you give me a reason for that? I go to the airport a lot and I know what's being built out there. So I see Amazon, but curious as to what the reason for, that's a lot of money for design work.
Well, for interchange, that's pretty standard. $5 to $6 million for design. That includes survey, that includes environmental review, that includes all the design. You know, we end up putting out close to 600 sheets of engineering documents when we're doing an interchange design. Hydraulics, that's a lot of work, and that does cost that much. just for the design phases. And as far as the interchange itself, why that interchange, that's really next on our docket as far as projected congestion interchanges, especially with Amazon, as well as the industrial park that's really being built in that area.
And I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to think that the basis was off with regards to
No,
the
no.
amount needed. I
No,
wanted
absolutely.
specifically the reason, and I think you just said it was with the Amazon and the industrial park, if that's what, and the congestion in that area.
Yeah, for that next interchange, correct. That's really where a lot of that focus is going to be next.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Other questions?
Yeah, I found that interchange, it can be confusing when you're trying to get onto I-25 from the airport. I've seen people go in the wrong lane and down into the office park rather than getting on I-25. And so there's some other reasons that it's just not a very efficient interchange as it is now.
Great. Well, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Shelley's hands is still up. Is that, oh, it went away. Okay.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, fiscal year 2023 through 2027 tip draft public comment period.
Yes. Hi, my name is Danelle Miller. I'm a new senior transportation planner here at PPACG. As you probably know, there was a public comment period for our newest tip. The public comment period closed recently on November 12th. We had 2 open houses, one virtual and one hybrid, in person and virtual. And we received no public comments on the tip. So our next step in the adoption schedule will be to go through the informational session with you and with the board, and then go back to the TAC and the CAC and the board to adopt the 23 through 27 tip. And if there's any questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
If there's any questions, John or I would be happy to discuss that.
I guess not.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Jessica, discussion item of 2022 work program.
So you've got this as a discussion item rather than just an information item. Because the work program is something that we use to guide all of our efforts throughout the year. Last year, for example, we got some good feedback from the CAC about, hey, did you mean it this way? And so we wanted to just bring it forward. So if anybody has any, hey, when I was reading this, I didn't see this, or hey, what'd you mean by this? Or this is one, it's long enough and in-depth enough that I'm not going to read through it with you all. So as you reviewed the meeting materials, did you see anything you want us to bring out? This, the work program, in case you didn't know, it's what we use to provide to the board as a, here's what PPACG staff are going to accomplish in this year. And we go through those pretty intently to make sure that they align completely with the strategic plan. And also so that we know our board can see, and you all can see what we do and how we do it.
Well, I have a quick question, Jessica. I didn't read it word for word, I have to admit, but I did see that the staff total of 39. Are you all fully staffed up? Are you still recruiting for certain positions?
Our budget is fully staffed. We still have not filled our environmental planner position. So okay. that has become an point for everyone.
Any other questions or comments?
curious as to the main reason as to why you haven't filled it, Jessica.
Because of delays caused by filling other positions, the candidates we had received were no longer available. And so in light of that, we are having to look over that position, the roles and goals, and how we're going to be able to meet those needs rather than continue being in a position where we're struggling a little bit to be where we would like to be. Because right now we're doing our minimums, but there's a lot more we can be doing and that we want to be doing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Anything else? Guess not. Next on the agenda is an action item, the CDOT 10-year plan.
Now,
And
John, is this an action item or an information item? Because
oops, did we lose John?
I can't find all the buttons.
So, do we need to approve this
No.
or no?
No, and in fact, we know that we have pulled this from the board agenda and have it go back through the committee process again. So I will just barely, since I think we lost the CDOT, well, Wendy's still on the line. So Wendy, I'll kind of cover this so I'm not putting you on the spot, but you let
I'm still here.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Let me know if I've got it wrong. So basically, the 10-year plan is to identify projects within the region that can be done. And we really have two lists. There's a sort of a roadway project list, and then there's the transit project list, because there are definite sort of certain funding sources that you're only eligible to do certain things with. That being said, this new 10-year plan list will be discussed in length and in depth over the next couple of weeks, if not the month, within the region to identify what projects are going to be our priority. Now, I think our priorities from the previous list have been done, and help me out here, Wendy. It was powers and research was a priority. The airport and powers is a priority, funded. And so we have to add new projects. But as we're adding new projects, we're also making sure that we get direction from the State Transportation Commission to address the SB 260 and all of the greenhouse gas rules. So you will definitely probably see a different mix of projects moving forward than before. So
And they all should be coming from your 2045 plan, your list of projects that are in that plan. We may need to just reprioritize. Something moves forward, something moves back, but they should all come from your 2045 list of projects.
Yes, great point. Yes, nothing actually can be funded by federal rule unless it's consistent with our long range plan. So that's what we're doing now. And again, I think at this point, we're still waiting for a little more direction on process and what the bumpers, so to speak, from the State Transportation Commission. And then we will bring the list back. So my apologies that this was maybe listed as action, but it should have been information. And even then, we kind of pulled it at the last minute. So we don't really need to discuss it because when we do bring it back, it'll have a lot more meat, for lack of a better term, of specific.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally. January will be the date. We're assuming that we'll have information that we'll be able to share with you that has been vetted and fiscally divvied out, is, I guess, for a better way of putting it, in January. By your January meeting, we should have a good handle on it.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, and I just might, random comment. John spoke to the Rotary Club of Colorado Springs a couple weeks ago, and it was very well received by the members there. and I encourage them at the subsequent meetings to pay attention so that they can, when there's open for public comments, they actually make comments instead of just complain. And they've had opportunity to input, but a lot of citizens don't realize that. And I appreciated you doing that for us, John. Thanks.
Yeah, always happy to do it. So, and we always like to talk about transportation, but they just tune us out because we get boring after a while. So
No, well,
we
you
love it
kept
when it's a captive audience.
yeah, so it was a captive audience, but you weren't boring either. So that was good. Okay, so we do have an action item. The item that was added to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, the 2022 Executive Committee, the nominating committee met, and I guess they have some information for us.
Do. So just real quick, every year the nominating committee is selected by the CAC. We then do a call for who's interested in serving on the executive committee. You all respond, and then the nominating committee reviews those interested applicants. So they met, they looked that over, and they are proposing a lineup of Miley Foster as chair, Patty Benger as first vice chair, and Michael Colomb as second vice chair. And this is where I tagged Roy in to give a quick description about why that is, and then we'll call for a motion to either approve the slate as proposed or otherwise.
Yes, this year we had 3 outstanding candidates volunteer to participate. And we decided not to put them through an interrogation. So we are allocating them by having Miley Foster move from first vice chair to chair, and Perry Benger to first vice chair, and Michael Colomb to second vice chair. And we welcome them and are very happy that they have volunteered to participate.
Well, thank you, Roy. So I guess now we need a motion to approve this slate and or not. And then if it's not, then we take it from there.
Yeah.
So do I have a motion?
Sharon Brown, I move that we approve the slate.
Do I have a second? Someone second it for me?
Second.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, is there a discussion? Quiet group, all right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Or raising your hand and waving.
Aye.
Oh, any opposed? I think the slate has been approved. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and so there, next on the agenda is member discussion. Wow. Anne, you don't have any discussion for us?
Oh, I'd just like to say something again. This is Anne.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say thank you so much for the work that the military is doing in cooperation with towns. They've contacted Green Mountain Falls, and I hope to work with them. Our fire mitigation committee is not doing that yet, but I hope they will. And thank you very much.
Any other member comments or discussion?
So here's where I'm going to chime in with 2 different things real quick.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is the Tri-County Transportation Study that is ongoing. Their El Paso County group is meeting tomorrow afternoon. If folks are interested in engaging in that Tri-County Transportation Study, they are breaking into focus groups for Park, Teller, and El Paso. Let me know, and I can share that information with you as it pops up. And then the second thing I need to cover is our December meeting. We are scheduled for the last Wednesday in December. Is that something, there's enough of us that are logging off that this is okay. I'm going to send out a poll to everyone and seeing if you will all be able to meet during that time period. Our regularly scheduled time.
That's okay with me.
Okay with me too. And so does that cover items for the next CAC meeting and the meeting and event schedule, Jessica?
I think I just saw Shelley raise her hand.
Shelley, did you have a question?
No, I just had one other thing. The league is having their holiday social tomorrow night. If anyone is in the Tut Boulevard area, I know it's from 5 to 7. I know it's a really busy time, but if you want to stop by, it's at a brewery, so kind of a little bit different drop in. Again, Peaks and Pine Brewery tomorrow night from 5 to 7. For those of you who love bingo, it starts at 7, but the social for the league is from 5 to 7. I'm a bingo fan, so it'll be free pizza, and I'd love to buy you guys a beer or a glass of wine. So please come on out.
Thank you, Shelley. Do I need you're going to show us the, so the CAC is supposed to be on the 29th, and so Jessica's going to follow up with us if that works. Okay. Okay. Any other key dates you want to point out to us, Jessica?
There isn't. Just a reminder, PPACG will be closed on both December the 23rd and 24th and December the 31st.
Okay.
As when we resume having in-person options, we do occasionally have to close or delay because of inclement weather. So just let us know and we will, when you've got an in-person meeting, double check our website for status of things. Can you tell? I'm always asking what you guys need.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Do I need a motion to adjourn? Or no? Okay, so then here's your last chance before we adjourn. So thank you all for joining us today. I guess meeting adjourned. See you next month.
Have a great day, all.
Happy holidays,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Thank you.
I prefer not.